Hi there, this is Chris, Chap in the Cap Motor Legends. I have a feeling that with almost every video I say that I've got something exciting to talk about. Well, maybe, but this time around I have something very, very exciting to talk about. It's a brand new armour from D3O and it's called Diablo. And of course, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, don't forget, like and subscribe. There are only two timelines in the world of motorcycle armour. There's that period before D3O came along, and then there's the new era post the launch of D3O. Now, before D3O came onto the scene, armour was large, it was heavy, it was cumbersome, and of course, it was not particularly comfortable. Look today at some of that armour, and it seems impossible that we're even able to walk to the bike and back. And of course, with the technology that was available back then, it wasn't necessarily all that protective either. Now, D3O changed all of that. Even though some of that early D3O looks a little bit clumpy compared to the very latest stuff, it was always so much nicer than what went before. And then, about 5 years ago, there was another paradigm shift when D3O introduced Ghost. And at the time, Ghost was extraordinary. Here was an armour that looked like its most useful application would be as a beermat, but it was proper armour. Initially, it only came in the less protective level 1 format, but then a year or so later, they released the same armour in a level 2 configuration. Now, in the centre, this armour was thicker, but it was still amazingly thin, and was still much lighter and thinner than a lot of traditional level 1 armour. Now, for us, the greatest impact of Ghost was in jeans, particularly in its level 1 format. It allowed you to wear protective jeans, but without those bulging kneecaps that were always such a giveaway that you weren't wearing your Levi's. With Ghost, nobody could ever tell you were wearing protective jeans. More importantly, perhaps, as the rider, you couldn't tell that you were wearing armour either. For us, jeans were where Ghost worked best. Now, lots of manufacturers put Ghost in baggier trousers and into jackets. And whilst this undoubtedly aided comfort, we were never totally convinced that Ghost was the best solution in looser clothing. And that was because Ghost is so mobile that it can move around in the shoulder or the elbow, such that if there was an impact, one could not always be confident that it would be in the right place. Now, the new Diablo armour may not look massively different to Ghost, and of course, making incremental improvements to products that was as revolutionary as Ghost was never going to be easy. But the technical gains with Diablo are significant, as we will see. The improvements from a wearer's perspective are also significant. Now, we are not here at Motor Legends nerdy technical people. In fact, if we're good at anything, it's breaking down complex propositions in order to simplify messages about a product's strengths and weaknesses. I suppose, of course, we could get D3O to provide us with reams of scientific mumbo-jumbo. I could even pretend that I understood it, but I don't see the point. What D3O has told us is that Diablo is made using a soft, free-flowing injection molded material, and our understanding is that this involves some of the same technology that D3O uses in its other armour. Anyway, there are, as far as we're concerned, 4 real key benefits to Diablo. First and most obviously, it's incredibly breathable, much more so even than Ghost. Almost 40% of the surface area of Diablo armour is open, that is to say, see-through. If by contrast you take a piece of Ghost armour, you can't see through that at all, and it's going to be far less breathable. What this means is that Diablo is going to help you stay cool in hotter weather, or when you're working up a sweat off-road. And that's a huge benefit, whatever the gear you're riding in and whatever kind of biking you're involved in. And it will help you stay cool because it will improve the skin's and the body's ability to sweat. Now, in hot weather, sweating is vital as part of the body's natural mechanism for cooling itself down. If your sweat cannot escape effectively from the surface of your skin and transition into a gaseous stage, evaporative cooling, as it's known, cannot take place. The result will be that you're going to get wetter and wetter and hotter. Now, clearly, the type of clothing you're wearing has a huge part to play here, but potentially so does your armour. If your sweat cannot pass through the armour, the cooling process will be impeded. It's the same but different in really cold conditions. Now, We sweat all of the time in all weathers. It may be that you're working hard on the bike in the middle of winter and you're generating your own mini internal heat wave. Or it may be that you've loaded up with mid-layers to insulate body heat, and that's obviously what we tend to do when it's cold. But wearing these layers will raise your body's temperature, and so the amount of sweat coming to the surface of the skin will increase. Now, if that sweat cannot escape, your base garments are just going to become wet. But here's the thing, if you start to generate less body heat, perhaps because you're sat on the motorway doing nothing, you're not generating much heat, or because the temperature falls further, you will lose body heat up to 20 times faster than would have been the case if your base layers, if your garments had stayed dry. In extreme conditions, hypothermia can be just a few miles down the road. And that's why breathability is still important even in very cold weather. And that's why Diablo will be as much of a godsend in the middle of winter as it will be on a hot summer's day. Now, the second thing about Diablo is its weight. Diablo is incredibly light. It is much lighter than Ghost, it's much lighter than traditional D3O, and it's much lighter than normal armour. In fact, so much so that we're not even going to be offering level 1 Diablo. The truth is that level 2 Diablo is only a little bit heavier than level 1 Ghost. So we take the view that if we can offer you twice the protection of level 1 Ghost, with armour that is on average, I don't know, about 10% heavier than level 1 Ghost, it makes sense to go for level 2 Diablo all the time. So let's put some numbers on that. A Ghost level 1 knee protector weighs 94 grams. A Diablo level 2 knee protector weighs 106 grams. That's just 12% heavier. A Ghost level 1 hip protector weighs 84 grams, but a Diablo level 2 hip protector at just 74 grams actually weighs less. In fact, it constitutes a saving of about 12%. A Ghost level 1 shoulder protector weighs 84 grams. A Diablo level 2 shoulder protector weighs 95 grams, so it's about 11% heavier than level 1 Ghost. In other words, as I've suggested, there's very little difference in the weight between level 1 Ghost and level 2 Diablo. Indeed, here's a thought. Given that Diablo 2 hips are actually lighter than level 1 Ghost hips, you could upgrade the armour in your jeans from level 1 to level 2 with absolutely no weight penalty. Yet there would be a significant increase in breathability, in comfort, and of course there would be an increase in the level of protection because level 2 armour absorbs twice as much energy in the event of an impact as level 1 armour. Now, in anybody's book, that's a pretty amazing result. There's a third benefit to Diablo armour as far as we're concerned. Now, because there's no backing to Diablo armour in the way that there is on Ghost armour, Diablo is much more pliable, much softer, both longitudinally and laterally. Now, we admit that until now, before this point, Ghost has always been the benchmark in, for example, our Roker jeans. Yet if one were to be hypercritical, one would have to acknowledge that when you're sat on the bike, you could still make out the outline of the armour. It was not exactly unsightly, and of course, compared to any other armour, it was barely noticeable. Yet the armour's outline was still visible. By contrast, the softness and the pliability of Diablo means that there will be almost no discernible outline at all. Now, the fourth benefit of Diablo will to some people appear counterintuitive, but we think it's real and valid. Now, when Ghost first came out, what amazed everybody was that it was completely flat. Before Ghost, all armour had been shaped. The benefits of this new flat armour, as I've mentioned already, were particularly apparent in jeans, because it meant that when you got off the bike to walk around, the curved portion of traditional armour designed to cup the knee didn't bang against the shin. But as I've suggested, the downside of Ghost was that it could move about. It could get out of place such that it wasn't always where you wanted it to be in the event of an accident. Well, D3O has potentially overcome this issue with Diablo. It's got a very slightly cupped shape, and I think what that is going to do is going to allow the armour to mould very gently around the knee bone, the shoulder, or the elbow. Yet, so slight is the curve and so soft is the material that I don't think you're going to feel any discomfort off the bike and no knocking of the armour against, for example, the shin. Really, I think Diablo offers the prospect of the best of both worlds. Diablo is every bit as comfortable as Ghost, yet it will have a greater chance of being in the right place when you need it. We have known that Diablo was coming for a good 6 to 9 months. I wore it through last summer in my jeans in Marrakesh. In fact, I wore it in India over Christmas when an out-of-control taxi driver shoved me over the edge of the mountain. I don't know whether the armour made any difference, but I suffered no damage to my shoulders, elbows, hips or knees, and so perhaps it did its job. Now, in our view, Diablo Level 2 kills all Level 1 armour, including, I'm afraid, Level 1 Ghost. And that's because there's no rationale for wearing it when Level 2 Diablo is more comfortable, more breathable, and almost imperceptibly heavier than Level 1 Ghost. And of course, let's not forget the benefits in terms of protection. Level 2 armour is twice as protective as Level 1 armour in that it absorbs twice as much energy in the event of an impact. And so that's why we think that Level 2 Diablo is just a bit of a no-brainer. We really can't see why you would not go for it. The only issue for some will be that Diablo will not work in those garments that were not originally configured with armour pockets to take D3O. The other application where Diablo won't work is where the armour is fixed in place with Velcro, and that's because, unlike Ghost, Diablo just won't take Velcro. So, there you have it. But, of course, there's no free lunch, and so if you want to upgrade your Level 1 Ghost in a garment to Diablo Level 2, there will be a cost. Now, all 3 sets of armour, they come in pairs as you would expect, they all cost $29.99. So that's the hip armour, that's the shoulder armour, and that's the knee and elbow armour. Now, because the demand for Ghost, particularly Ghost Level 1, is going to diminish rapidly, we won't be doing, I'm afraid, any exchange deals on new clothing. And that's because, in truth, we already have more Ghost than we know what to do with. The only exception I can tell you will be an upgrade on the Marrakesh jacket, a Level 2 upgrade on the Marrakesh, which in truth we've always offered. The new upgrade will incorporate a Level 2 shoulder armour, elbow armour and a Level 2 Rayon back protector. The cost for that upgrade will be £70. Ultimately, Diablo will become much more available, but for the next 3 months it will be exclusive to Motor Legends. So if you want to see it, come and see us, try it on. You will be amazed, you will be impressed. This really is the gold standard. Well, I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found D3O's Diablo armour as exciting as we think it is. If you want to see more armour, more D3O, then visit the website motorlegends.com. If you want to learn more about Diablo in particular, then if you click on one of the links on the screen, sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there, that would take you directly to the product page on the website. There you can check out the spec in a little bit more detail, you can check availability, and obviously if you want to buy the armour you can do that there and then. Now, when you buy from us, we try to make the process simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item of protected wear that you buy from us, returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide you do want to return something to us. We have the best price promise in the business. Now, John Lewis used to be rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise. We go one stage better. If you can find anybody selling anything that we sell at a price that is lower than ours, we will beat that competitor's price by a full 10%. Now, there are a few terms and conditions associated with what we call our price beat. Nothing particularly onerous, I can assure you, but if you are going to attempt to price beat us, I suggest you go over to the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. If in the future you'd like to see bulletins from us about new products, if you go to the website, there's a piece of script at the top of the page that says newsletter sign up. Click on there, within seconds you'll be in business. In future you'll receive our email bulletins. If, however, you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, we'd be simply delighted if you want to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Now finally, I'd like to make mention of our fabulous little shop here at Motor Legends. We are based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. And as I've said, it's a small shop, it's got a small footprint, but it is attached to our warehouse where we have more than £4 million worth of stock arranged over 3 floors. And technically that makes this the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the country. But we'd like to think of ourselves as far more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We are all about service, we are all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. And when you service or when you come and see us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian illy coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're lucky, you might even get to sample one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.